smiling because I've been joined by Bhakti here. It's wonderful to have her. Well, this week is, thank you all for coming, but this week is week 5, which is the mystery of the Avatara or divine incarnation. And this is from Rays of the One Light, which is the weekly commentaries on the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita by Swami Kriyananda. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramhansa Yogananda. The Bhagavad Gita in the 4th chapter states, as we saw last week, O Bharata, whenever virtue declines and vice predominates, I incarnate on earth, take visible form. I come to destroy evil and re-establish virtue. What is the mystery of this divine manifestation? Great avatars such as Krishna and Jesus Christ are born as babies, even as we all are. They take human form and go through normal human experiences as they grow from childhood to adulthood. They eat, they play. They may seem to suffer sickness and disappointment like the rest of us. In what way are they different from other human beings? The important thing to understand is that even as they are like us, so are we also like them. Their realization can be ours too. They came on earth to show us our own divine potential. The difference lies not in the manner of their manifestation on earth, but in the consciousness with which they are born. All things are condensations, so to speak, of the cosmic vibration, Om, described by St. John's Gospel as the Word. Most human beings, however, are unconscious of the divine origin. The avatars, on the other hand, come consciously as manifestations of that divine reality. As the Gospel says in the 1st chapter, and the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. Thus, through Holy Scriptures, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om. Well, very interesting this week. The mystery of the Avatara or the divine incarnation. And it's probably a little bit nicer for all us to think of the avatars in their truest sense rather than the mystical movie of these great blue beings. Although I think they even have games now. I'm not quite video games. So it's going to be fun to explore it this week. So I thought I'd start with reading a Whispers from Eternity. And I'm going to read this one, which is a demand to see God in everything. O Father, may I behold thee, above, beneath, behind, around, wherever I turn my gaze. Train the children of my senses never to stray from thee, who dwellest at the heart of everything. Turn my eyes inward to thy changeless beauty. Attune my ears to silence, that I may hear thy subtle music. Breathe on me the heavenly scent of thy sacred presence. Orient-wise, I will worship thee, placing the candles of my 5 senses on the altar of my love. Thus, I will contact thee in the first pale shafts of dawn, absorb thee in the bright light of noon, expand in thee with the hidden glow of twilight, and merge in thee in the silver moonlight. Always will I keep alight on my inner altar the mystic taper of my love for thee. Oh, Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. It's there's so many hidden gems in that in relation to what we're talking about, because in the reading from Rays of One Light, it talks about these avatars, being required or needed. So God sees the need in the different times and the different ages, but also it's a choice. It's a choice for these avatars to come back. So we're going to go on a bit of a journey to see why they've chosen to come back, and for that very reason. But it also says in this reading that we are the same. We can do the same thing. We have that option. We have that ability to be avatars, or see or be the same as them. So it's kind of interesting, isn't it? Because, you know, from that, I guess we can go back to the fact that there's this veil placed upon us. So if we read Whispers of Eternity, and Master refers always to this veil of darkness or sheath upon us. And if you think about it from a visual perspective, God created outwardly through word this spark. And so every single atom in creation is this spark of God. And then around that, we've created a veil, or God created this veil, which is Maya. We understand it to be Maya. It's the delusion that we're placed upon. And if you start from this spark and then this Maya delusion being placed around every single spark, and you go out to the furthest reaches, I think, Yogananda spoke of even remembering incarnations of being a mineral. He remembered being a diamond. And it's an incredible thing to go back to that, and we'll go back to that journey as they go along. But if you think about that and being wrapped at that point in solidity, you know, a diamond is in its greatest form of solid. And then as that evolution comes, we move further along this evolution to freedom. And this veil, it talks about in the scriptures of being, as we go along, we have these little pinpricks of light, and that's that creation of knowing or finding God. And these little sparks enlighten us on this journey to realize that there's more than what's in front of us. And as we go along, we have these, as Swami Kriyananda put it, we have these bundles of self-definition that are it's surrounding us and hiding us from this veil of lightness. And I'll give you an example of that. We were sitting today, yesterday, little Arati asked, you know, what it came up about my previous jobs and what I used to do. And we sort of showed her, there are YouTube clips of previous lifetimes of being a national water polo player, and then an intensive care paramedic, and doing all sorts of different things throughout life. And, and then Arati said, so you're these 5 things. And I was thinking, so interesting how we all relate to each other for what we are or what we do. And even from a bigger perspective, you know, we identify ourselves even just recently, of this land that we live on. Are we Australian? Who was the owner of Australia? Who was the original owner of Australia? Who was the original owner of all these different things? And it's an identity that we're holding on to. It's this veil of delusion that we belong to us. And if you just sit for a moment and think, we came into this planet with absolutely nothing. We came into this earth and we're going to go away with absolutely nothing. So what does it matter if someone came and took my home? What does it matter if this didn't work, or this, these worldly things that came about? And each time we let go of that attachment to these things and definitions, we start opening up these pinpricks of light. We start disintegrating this veil of darkness that's over us. And it's very interesting, isn't it? And then as we expand that light, we start recognizing the unity, that we're all that light. This delusion is like God viewing us in this world, or having a play within us. It's a play upon play of what we are. It's God's play, and then we're playing this play out. It's kind of an interesting thing when you think about it, isn't it? And again, I use the delusion of even a movie. And Kalamali and I were watching something, and it was a bit of a tearjerker, and it evoked emotions. And you're sitting there thinking, this is a movie. Why do I have these emotions? But you're in it, and we're only using our senses of sight and not even smell in that instance. It's just sight and sound, but it draws us in, and we're in this delusion, this veil of identity. And you can imagine lifetimes of developing this veil of identity. And like all things, we have expressions that we have to go through to get out of this veil. And we see it in nature. We see it from the growth of a butterfly, you know, the journey that they have to go through to transform. It's not one of these. Even birth itself, from our perspective, it's a struggle. The fact that we have to go down a birth canal, well, that birth canal squeezes the life of unity into individuality, where the child is breathing with the mother's breathing for them, and as they're born through a birth canal, that last squeeze pushes that last breath. It separates the unity within the mother to take their own breath. That first breath of a child comes through, and there's a reason for those journeys, and we're all on it. It's the same that we're all on. We all will continue to struggle through that part until we are free from that. And it's kind of interesting, and the reason why I say this is all of us, the scriptures tell us, all of us have to go through the same journey. And then as we start opening that little light and expanding it, we hear it all the time in meditation. We're blessed to be able to have meditation. When you feel that spark of joy, that spark of love, the idea of meditation is to expand it, and to expand it out to become and recognize that we are one. These great masters that have come through have recognized that. They've recognized that they are one. They are that tiny spark, center everywhere, circumference nowhere. They've recognized that that one spark is in all of us, and we are all one as a part of that. So this avatar gets to Savikalpa Samadhi and has choice. They make a choice to be able to come back and help. And God sends them. Saints are the same. Often you'll hear that saints come back and continue because they want to. They don't decide to be completely free. They decide to come back so that they can help everyone upon this journey. But that same spark is recognized that it is unity with the infinite. And so our sole goal really is not to just to recognize it, but become part of that infinite. And it's kind of interesting because if you think about it, we have that ability, and God uses all innate objects. We can talk about stories lots of times of that picture that stopped someone from suiciding, that became something. A sudden rock that appeared out of nowhere when someone was lost in the snow, that gave someone the ability to hop out. There's even stories of footprints being in the snow that have led people in safety and once they've been lost. We all know these stories. So God is in every single part. So what does that mean? Why does God send an avatar back? What is the purpose? And often you'll hear that there's a line and a similarity between everything from Krishna to Jesus Christ. And they all talk about it. Jesus Christ, Jesus was the being like us that came on this journey. But the Christ consciousness is the recognition of freedom. And that's why I think Master said that he's glad that it was called Christianity and Christianity and not Jesusanity, because he actually thought about it, because Jesus is the being or the vessel that's come upon this earth rather than the Christ consciousness. And if you read the Bible, Christ, when he refers to Christ, refers to unity, the Christ consciousness in these stories. Jesus, when he refers to himself as the vessel that's here, and you start differentiating the difference, Krishna and all these stories all kind of have these same journeys on the path of coming into this world, of suffering, of being separated, of being put down, of trying to be murdered, if you like, you know, like anyone that felt threatened by them. They all had these worldly journeys that came upon us. But what they talk about from freedom point of view is the Christ consciousness, which is the recognition that you aren't separate. There is no separateness. You are that. That's that expansion of this little veil, or getting rid of that veil and recognizing that we all are one. And if you think about it, it's kind of amazing, wouldn't it? You know, God has the ability, if he wanted to create the world's biggest unicorn, if you like, to come back and give us these teachings. But why does he choose the humans? Why does he choose a human figure to come back? If you think about it, it's like a journey, and you can think about how many times you hear people give you empathy or talk to you in some way or give you a lesson. If they can't relate to you, you don't take that seriously, do you? The big unicorn came down to earth and started telling us how we could be free, we'd always go, yeah, but you're a unicorn. You know, like we wouldn't take that on board. We have to see and relate to those people. Another example, if we had somebody that wanted to take us, and I think we've gone on this journey before on these talks, to the Himalayas, we all wanted to join that. If we got somebody who was going to be our guide that actually happened to be a deep sea diver that's probably dived deeper than the depths of the Himalayas and came to tell us how to reach the top, we probably wouldn't take them as serious as somebody that had recently gone up and down the Himalayas or up and down the, you know, these great journeys. We have to be able to relate to these people. We have to be able to relate to individually all these different people. That's why there's not just one avatar. There's avatars that can relate to the different elements, and people can relate to that. We're all on our individual journey. And I think also what has to come down is each time that one of these avatars come down, they come down for a specific reason or a particular part. And one of those is the world missions are often around the yugas, which is where are we sitting in this evolution? Are we an ascending Dwapara, which is what we happen to be in? We are delivered an avatar that is going to bring us our lessons for this time frame. There all have been different avatars for the different descending periods of great darkness, and those teachings, the truths of those great teachings have never changed, but they're relative to the time frames of those periods of time. And we're great in the fact that we have been given Yogananda and Babaji during this time, you know, the lineage of Babaji down. And Master's message for this time was around, he had three main messages, and we'll go through them, but they're related to how we're going to need to live to find freedom, to open up that veil and find freedom in the time frame that we're living in, this time of this energy age, and how we're going to do that. And the first part that Yogananda brought was, or one of his first lessons was to help people understand that they were an extension of God. It's an interesting thing, that we are an extension of God. The previous yugas were one of separation. It was a time of separation. It's the era of churchianity. It was the era of being completely individual and ownership, and of you know, that worldly aspect of what it is. And so really the second part that he brought in was the scientific techniques to help us recognize that we are an extension of God, and that is meditation and Kriya Yoga. So it was really, really important to have techniques and the scientific backing behind it as we move into an energy age for us to overcome the previous, and our goals to overcome this energy age are one of restlessness and materialism. So we're moving away from that, but we're moving into an area or time frame of restlessness, materialism, and that greed, that one. And we have a really, if you think about it, this separation, if you think about what we just spoke about before of the world sees itself separately, don't we? We want ownership over Australia. We just celebrated Australia Day, and we're talking about, you know, who were the original owners and who had this. This is a time frame of the past. The United States, people still at war, having ownership over things. And again, when you start thinking about that from a different perspective, not one person on that planet in the next 100 years are going to be there. So what do we really own? So it's start awakening, you know, one of our techniques or our techniques of this is to start recognizing that we don't own anything. It's all energetic. It's all this oneness. So it's overcoming restlessness, materialism, and greed. And if you think about what's destroying the world, it's the greed, it's the ownership, it's the development of it. And with that comes greed, you know, it's the materialism, the money, the expansion of those things. So in duality, we're coming into a world where that is going to start growing. But to be free, we have to start moving completely away from that. And that's the third lesson that Yogananda brought. It's that showing that all in the world, including languages, we are, and I didn't find it, it came to me, but I didn't find it. But in Whispers from Eternity, there's a beautiful prayer demand, and it's on, maybe Bhakti can find it, but it's the prayer for the United States of the world. And it's kind of interesting, isn't it? So Yogananda came in, and his mission was to bring East and West together, the Hinduism and the Christianity, and show the truths. It's unity again. It's not separateness. We've come from an era of separateness where, you know, all religions believed that they were completely their own, and everyone else, to the point of war, was wrong. Where the truth of Yogananda and what he brought was that there are truths behind all things. And again, if we bring the truths of this era into the next one, they'd be probably looking at us thinking, geez, what's going on, you guys? This is, you know, very isolated or very narrow thinking of the way the unity is. And as we keep evolving, we keep moving or separating this veil from what we are, this identity of who and what we are. And so it's to put it into perspective, and I'm going to give us a little exercise to experience at the moment in the next instance. But just to finish it off, the teachings of these avatars that come in, there's an underlying truth from all of them, from Christ, Krishna, all the way to Yogananda. Every one of them bring a truth to what's for really one purpose, and that is to get rid of this veil, to know that we are one with God, and to give us that freedom. And then we have that choice to expand and keep going, or coming back and helping those that can come through. And so what I'd like to do is have a little experience of this, and we're going to do a little visualization, and it's something that we can practice at any time. And so what I'm going to do is get everyone to close their eyes. Just take a few breaths. Just watch the breath for a minute or two. I want you to visualize the Divine Mother, Yogananda or one of the great masters, just completely wrapping you in their power, in their protection. Taking away all your worries. So what's left is a sense of peace. I want you to visualize at the spiritual eye that is the little hole in the veil of our delusions. And I want you to bring that peace from your heart up to that veil. A realization that through that veil is the same peace that John, both Johns, Michelle, Anju, Raman, that is the same peace. It's not separate. It is the same peace that we're feeling in our heart behind that veil. Peace is not separate, it's completely joined. And know that that is a truth. Gently open your eyes. So any time that you're got a spare moment, just know that not only is that same sense of peace, that sense of peace is there for all of us. It's there all the time, and it's a connection that we can continuously expand in any moment of any time and age, not just in meditation, but knowing that and start growing that and practicing that as a part of being one. We know that we're one. That is a truth. But it's difference between knowing and believing is the difference. It's a beautiful little thing. And I thought we'd finish today. And this is prayer for universality. God, that was a tongue twister, wasn't it? But it was a prayer demand asking God to be the President of the United States of the world. Our Father, President of the United States of planets, galaxies, stellar systems, and the universe, thy democratic rule of free choice and individual evolution is bringing thy citizen children nearer and nearer to thy high ideals. Born in thy states of democratic free will, we inherited our celestial birthright of eternal, everlasting freedom. But alas, we squandered that inheritance, though receiving it would have meant attaining omnipresence, and imprisoned ourselves in debt consciousness behind bars of nonsense enjoyment, evil deeds, selfishness, and small-minded, narrow patriotism. Teach us, Father, to melt the fancy frozen boundaries of family, society, and national identity with the warmth of our love and understanding. Bless us, O all-wise Father, that we may live in the United States of the world with Thee as our President, elected for eternity by the free choice of all good citizen qualities of our hearts, ruling ourselves through our own self-clarifying discrimination. Teach us to enrich our souls, our abundance, and our understanding by broadening the circle of our patriotism to include all Earth's inhabitants of ever caste, creed, position in society and colour. Our cosmic President, bless us that we may obey thy laws of life and respect with kindly hearts the freedom of all thy children, fellow citizens with us, not only the good, but their error intoxicated, even the animals, birds and fishes, the frail flowers, the mute grasses and the jungle weeds, low crushed by the tread of cruel, unheeding feet. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. What a utopic world, but it's so interesting. I like hearing that, because what did Yogananda told us? Go out and create communities. High-minded, simple thinking, simple living. That's the goal. And if you think about where we've come from and what we're attached to, which is cities and commerce and all these great things, but think of the world if we could all live knowing that we're all connected, we're all one, we're all joy for living, and know that we're all here to support each other in this journey. What a place to be, huh? Joy to you all.